Welcome to the Georgia Tech 2020 Institute Address. I'm thrilled that we are here able to do this in person in a more traditional format. With our safety precautions and our social distancing in place, we're able to actually see each other and also have so many of you join us online. If you are online and you are on VPN, we do recommend that you disconnect from that so that you can have a better system performance. We've reserved time for questions after the President's remarks. For those questions, please use townhall@gatech.edu. That's townhall@gatech.edu. We will get to as many as we possibly can. If you're in the room and you would like to ask questions, please use the same townhall@gatech.edu so that you don't have to get up and move around or share a microphone. The address is being recorded and will be archived on the President's website within the week. And at this time, I want to introduce Ángel Cabrera, Georgia Tech's president, who recently passed 1 year, just the 1 year anniversary, as the head of this great institution. Please join me in welcoming.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you all. Thank you. And what a year it has been. Really extraordinary. Over the past 6 months, we have navigated what I know we'll consider one of the most difficult times in Institute's history. Each of us has faced our own set of personal challenges, and together we have managed to keep Georgia Tech strong and delivering on its mission. So despite this context, today, Georgia Tech is having a bigger impact in the world than ever before. We educate more students, we graduate them at high rates, we conduct more research. Our research has a bigger impact. We contribute more to our local economy. We help attract iconic companies to our neighborhood, the likes of Microsoft and Google. To achieve all that in these circumstances is just absolutely unbelievable. So I am humbled, I am grateful that I get to work with the people that I get to work with every day. And if there is one message today, and you can forget everything else, is a big, huge thank you. It is hard to exaggerate how devastating COVID has been around the world, even though we're somehow getting used to it. This virus, as we know, has cost the lives of about 1 million people that we know, 200,000 of them in the United States alone, some of them affecting families of people in this room and beyond. In economic terms, it has caused one of the worst recessions, after World War II. And according to a Gates Foundation report that was just released this week, it has had devastating consequences in pretty much all the important human development indicators around the world. For example, it has already pushed about 37 million people around the world into extreme poverty, as defined anybody below $1.9 a day. After 2 decades of progress in reducing poverty around the world, this year we have seen in just a few months an increase of 7% worldwide. In other important indicators, as access to vaccines, not COVID vaccines, just vaccines in general, the report shows that we have actually regressed about 25 years in 25 weeks. It's been hard. At home in the United States, the pandemic has sent unemployment rates to historic highs, and it has hit low-income communities and communities of color particularly hard. And that impact has been felt in our very own community. I know it has created a lot of stress among many of us, and it has created a lot of stress in all of us together as an institution. This was a time of very difficult questions, very difficult issues with very difficult answers. Now at Georgia Tech, the path we have taken is one to try to return to campus and resume our activities in a safe way, but to keep our mission going, to keep our important work going. And it has not been easy at all. But by doing that, we're delivering on our mission, and also we're minimizing the economic impact that we could otherwise have in the impact in the livelihoods of many people who depend on this institution. Now, keeping Georgia Tech open and moving forward in this context has required a huge amount of work, of ingenuity, of compassion from everybody. And I am just extremely proud of how our community has responded, how our students and their families adapted to these changing circumstances and to different forms of instruction, how they collaborated with us to empty the campus in March, how they are dealing with all these different protocols and modes of instruction, how our faculty pivoted to online instruction within 2 weeks last March, and how they spent the summer trying to figure out how to create hybrid modes of instruction, and how they have shown incredible flexibility and understanding of the unique circumstances of our students. We're very proud of how our research teams keep their important work going and how many of them very quickly switched to addressing the challenges that were created by COVID. Incredibly proud of how our staff supported students on and off campus, how they helped take care of everybody who was on campus and those people who got sick or who were exposed and were at risk. Very grateful to the Stamps Health Center. I know that you guys have helped serve an incredible load of cases, and I'm very grateful for how you have collaborated with public health authorities and how you've taken good care of all of us. Very proud of how our police department really supported from the beginning testing efforts at Georgia Tech, but also helping the rest of the community. Incredibly grateful to our information technology staff, central and all throughout the units, because they really, without them, we could not have transitioned to all that we did remotely. All the folks in facilities, safety, campus services, finance, planning, human resources, they found creative ways to keep the trains running. Very proud of athletics, how they managed to keep our student athletes safe, and in these crazy circumstances, they have really managed to not just practice, but even compete and give us maybe a sense of quote-unquote normalcy in the fall. I'm very proud of how many of our staff figure out ways to work remotely, and many others stayed on campus to take care of all the needs on our campus. Very proud of Institute Communications. Renee and your team, you helped keep us informed, brought us accurate information. You have become an example of transparency in reporting data. I'm proud of how everybody figure out ways to deal with their personal challenges. We didn't know this, but now we have lots of teachers in the room. Many of you parents with young kids, and somehow managed to help your kids move forward, to help some of you taking care of elderly parents at home. I'm incredibly proud and grateful of how the Alumni Association, many of our donors, the foundation, they came together and they created an emergency fund that has already distributed over $900,000 to more than 900 students who were facing new issues. And I'm really proud and thankful of how everybody's doing what they can to help us move forward, to stay safe, to wear our masks, to really work in this new way and according to all the new work arrangements and classrooms and all the protocols. I am humbled and incredibly grateful to each one of you. I'm also grateful to all of you who have positions of leadership, not just in the administration, but those of you who are student leaders, Some of them in the room, Brielle, Leah, and all your colleagues, thank you so much for what you've done. Leaders in the staff, leaders in the faculty. This is very likely the hardest situation any of us in positions of leadership have ever faced. And I'll tell you, when it was my turn, I was just so glad that I had you as my team and I could rely on you. I am particularly thankful of a few individuals who are incredible but have a terrible sense of timing. These are individuals who stepped up and assumed new positions of leadership during these times. And I want to thank them for their courage to serve us when it was most difficult and when it was most needed. Kelly Fox, our new EVP of Administration and Finance, I think landed just 1 month before the fund began. Dean Kay Husbands-Feeling, our new Dean of the Ivan Allen College of Liberal Arts. Leslie Sharp, our new head librarian. Jody Geary, our new internal auditor. Darren Hubbard, Chief Information Officer, and of course, our new Provost, Dean Steve McLaughlin. I thank all of you for stepping up to the plate. It can't get any more difficult than this, by the way. That's the good news. You'll be fine. Now, among all the things that we've done to navigate this pandemic, I am particularly appreciative of the absolutely impressive surveillance testing that we have built. Not only because it has been absolutely crucial in our ability to contain infection, but because, in my view, it shows Georgia Tech at its very best. Bring people together, collaborate, innovate, advance and leverage technology, solve problems, serve others. These are principles that run deep in our community and that we're really in full display in this system. I see many of you in the room, professors, Greg Gibson, Joshua Weitz, Julianne, Alex, Mike Shannon. I mean, the list goes on. Now, Georgia Tech, I need to remind us that we don't have a medical school. We've never had any experience with clinical tests, and that didn't stop us from developing this very large-scale process for asymptomatic testing. Our faculty and staff designed a reliable process to extract RNA from saliva samples. We knew that sticking things up people's noses would not encourage them to come back. We established innovative polling protocols, procured and encoded robots and lab equipment. We developed an information system to handle all this data. We deployed testing sites, recruited and trained personnel, obtained all certifications, and quickly reached a capacity to collect and process about 2,500 samples a day. All of this within a few weeks. It's really, really amazing. Now, thanks to the system and to the commitment of every member of our community to test weekly, we've been able to collect precious data that has allowed us to identify and deal with outbreaks and has ultimately allowed us to contain the infection. This past week, we reported infection levels through this testing system just below 0.4%, which is on par with the data that we were collecting right after move-in. And our reported cases have dropped to a 7-day moving average of about 5 cases a day, down from a peak of about 58 at the end of August. We have learned that the vast majority of these cases, over 94%, are students. And this indicates, in my view, 2 things. One is that all the protocols that we have put in place for work, for the classrooms, for the lab, they seem to be working. Everybody's collaborating and they seem to be working. But it shows me another thing, which is the students are doing an amazing work. I mean, that decline in cases, it is students working hard to avoid infection. And I know this was not the fun semester that many of them had in mind, but they are doing what they need to do. And when I hear many stories nationwide about students behaving irresponsibly. I don't recognize those stories. And I know that things happen here as well, but the vast majority of our students are just leading ahead and making things happen. I'm very appreciative of that. Now, to be clear, every time I share good numbers, I knock on wood and I do my magic dance and whatever I can, because the battle is not over. We're probably not even in, maybe we're in the second quarter of the game, and we have to be alert. We have to keep our guard up. We need to continue to work very hard, but we also need to recognize that all this hard work is paying off. Now, what's really, to me, has been also a source of great satisfaction is what we're doing with this incredibly difficult situation. We've also kept thinking about our future, and we've kept working on a new, exciting strategic plan. For the past year, last year when I gave this presentation, I asked the community to engage in this process, and I had hoped that I would convince a few hundred of you to participate. Well, it's been more like a few thousand of you. About 5,700 people have participated, and they have helped create the foundations of this new 10-year strategic plan. I want to use the opportunity to thank the two co-chairs of the effort, Dean McLaughlin and Dean Miriam Malavi. I saw her earlier. I don't know where she is in the room, but Miriam, thank you. I also want to thank Sonia Alvarez and Frank Neville and the team of consultants that helped us put the work together, and every member of all the working groups. I mean, it's been just an absolutely fantastic job to see happen. Of course, Steve, in the category of no good deed goes unpunished, it's only fair. You helped produce the strategic plan. Now you have to execute it. Looking forward to working with you on that. The new plan, whose details are still being worked out and will be rolled out in detail later this fall, is grounded, very importantly, on a new mission statement and a set of values. The new mission declares our commitment to developing leaders who advance technology and improve the human condition. And our values and beliefs describe the way we operate as a community. We come from all over the place, from different backgrounds, different beliefs, and yet this is what binds us together. Students are our top priority. We strive for excellence in everything we do. We thrive on diversity. We celebrate collaboration. We champion innovation. We safeguard freedom of inquiry and expression. We nurture the well-being of our community. We act ethically, and we are responsible stewards of the resources that we're entrusted with. Now, this mission and these values are not just words on paper. They describe who we are when we are at our best and who we aspire to be every day. They are also, as we have learned over the past few months, our lodestar at times of crisis. And not just when we deal with COVID. When our country earlier this year was shaken by a series of heartbreaking acts of violence that cost the lives of several Black people across the country, when many, including here in Atlanta, took to the streets to protest and demand justice, we at Georgia Tech came together as a community to figure out what this means to us. And we started with our values. We started by reaffirming our commitment to these core values of diversity and inclusion, to creating an environment where people of all backgrounds can thrive. We then engaged in open dialogue, in self-reflection about racial injustice and inequity through a series of meetings all throughout the Institute. We listened to one another. We listened to our Black colleagues, students, alumni. And then we committed to some actions. We created a Diversity and Inclusion Council that will help identify issues of racism and discrimination and propose solutions. We created a Police Community Council composed of students, staff, faculty, alumni, and members of our police department to ensure open communication and collaboratively identify ways to do better, to serve our community better. We strengthened training programs, created a new position even at GTRI to lead efforts in support of underrepresented minority and women research faculty and staff. We created new training programs. Even our very leadership team underwent some anti-racist training, and we're planning new activities in the months to come. We wanted to lead by example. So if our mission statement answers the question of why it is we do what we do, why we get up in the morning, why do we go through all this trouble, and the values and beliefs answer the question of how we work as a community. They serve as a guide to make decisions, to help us do better and be better. Then there is, of course, the question of what? What is it that we want to accomplish over the next decade? So together we've crafted this new vision. It's a vision of impactful, of inclusive innovation, of service to the public good, of developing exceptional leaders and producing ideas that can help us deal with some of the biggest local, national, and global challenges of our time. And this vision is grounded on 6 action themes that we're now working and translating into detail. Amplify impact, champion innovation, connect globally, expand access, cultivate well-being, and lead by example. So the first goal, amplify impact. The way I look at impact is a function, really a product of 2 things: how many students we're educating and how well prepared those students are to make a difference, or how much research we conduct and how impactful that research is in addressing challenges that matter. Is how much work we do and how good the work is that we do. We must do more and we must do better if you want to amplify impact. So this year, we recruited the largest, strongest undergraduate class in our history. We reached historically high graduation rates and grew past 40,000 students for the first time. We are the largest producer of engineers in the nation. We're graduating more and more individuals who are leading in business, in academia, in government, in Georgia, and around the world. As we continue to grow and serve more students, the question we're going to have to answer is, how do we do a better job of helping all those graduates be creative, ethical, responsible leaders who will use their talent to make a positive difference? On the research side, this year, for the second time, our awards surpassed $1 billion. And that positions us among the most research-intense universities in the country, by extension in the world. The impact of our work did not go unnoticed, by the way. In this past spring, 3 Georgia Tech scholars were inducted into the National Academy of Sciences: Marilyn Brown, Randy Engel, and Arkady Nemirovsky. Marilyn Brown was also selected for the National Academy of Engineering, along with Thomas Korfis, Susan Margulis, and Alexander Shapiro. And Dean Susan Lozier was elected to the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. Our work is getting noticed and recognized. Now, as we set new goals to expand the research that we do, we also need to ask ourselves how we can concentrate our efforts in the areas that we can make the biggest impact in the world. How can we deliver on our mission to improve the human condition? And some of us are really exploring how even the Sustainable Development Goals may be a good framework to answer that question. A good example of impactful research is how we came together this year to find solutions to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. diagnostic tools, antiviral treatments, data models, protective equipment. We have created solutions. We have advised entities around us with those solutions. Another good example of scholarship with impact is the new School of Cybersecurity and Privacy, which we announced last week. It builds on the strength of several hundred faculty and research staff across the institute and a portfolio of over $180 million in research funding per year. And this school will bring together different disciplines in computing and engineering and public policy to solve questions that are really affecting the way we live and that are even affecting the functioning of our democracy. This is research that really, really matters. It will also help produce the talent that is in increasing need and demand in the workplace. So amplify impact. The second strategic commitment is to champion innovation. And this is champion innovation by educating students who can be drivers themselves of innovation and entrepreneurship, but also to help our community become a vibrant, innovative place, but also to lead our way into shaping higher education for the future. Academic programs like CreateX or competitions like the Inventure Prize, they're leading the way, and they're showing us what an impact we can have with students. The work that we do with ATDC, Engage Accelerator, Venture Lab, and many other initiatives, plus the many corporate innovation labs that we've attracted to Tech Square, they show how a place like Georgia Tech can really be the anchor of a space of vibrant innovation. We continue to make investments in planning new investments in Tech Square with the new Scheller and George Towers, but we're also planning the new Enterprise Park, which is going to extend the impact of Georgia Tech to our neighborhoods to the west and to the south, which traditionally have been left out of investment and economic opportunity in Atlanta. And this year also, as we saw during COVID, how higher ed was being transformed before our eyes, it gives us an opportunity to continue to lead and shape higher education. Last week, we were recognized as one of the most innovative universities in the country, which was absolutely a terrific recognition. The work of the Center for 21st Century Universities, launched by Provost Brass, the 3 online masters that have been celebrated and have really been revolutionary. Those are examples of what we can do to shape not other industries, but to actually shape the way higher education happens. As a public university committed to the public good, it is essential, and this would be another critical area of strategic emphasis, that we expand access to underserved communities, access to students from low-income families, access to non-traditional adult learners who need new opportunities to grow in their careers. The Clough Georgia Tech Promise Program for Georgia residents and the new Peterson Scholarship Endowment Fund for students also with demonstrated need are great examples of things we need to do more of to eliminate economic barriers. But it's not just economic barriers that we face. We need to do more to ensure that talented students, some of them going to school just across the street or a few miles from here, who right now they don't see themselves at Georgia Tech. They don't see themselves pursuing careers in science and technology. We need to make sure that they see themselves here. We need to reach out to them, work with them. Our numbers are doing better, but we're not doing well enough. And it's going to be a challenge we all need to accept. How, over the next decade, we're going to change that. Black students at Tech account for 7% of undergraduates, 5% in the overall population, way below the share of African American population in our city and in our state. Women were doing better, 31% overall, 39% undergraduate. There's still a lot of room to go to reach at least parity. We know how to do this. We've used Project Engages, the work that Seismic does to reach out to schools, to bring people in, to inspire people. We know how to do it. We just need to bring ourselves together to really deliver those results. And increasing the numbers of women and people of color at Georgia Tech is only half of what we need to resolve. The other question, which has become clear by the working group and by all the conversations we've had, is we need to build an environment where then everybody can thrive, everybody can graduate, everybody can be successful. And that's going to be another central piece of what we do over the next few years. It has not, on the global front, this has been a terrible year for global engagement. Study abroad has collapsed around the world, collapsed. And yet, we have seen how crucial it is that Georgia Tech continue to engage globally. And we have demonstrated that engaging globally is not at odds with our commitment to improving life around us in our community. In fact, we can improve our community by being that global institution that brings talent from around the world, that sends talent to different parts of the world, that becomes a connector. This year, of course, Georgia Tech Lorraine, the campus in Shenzhen has been instrumental in allowing many of our new Chinese students to stay engaged with us. And many of them have started their Georgia Tech career in China. And just yesterday, we hosted the first conference of the University Global Coalition that we helped create, that is bringing universities from all over the world to try to work together to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. So in spite of the circumstances, our commitment to global engagement remains strong. There is another important commitment, which is our cultivating well-being in our community. Our goal is to promote the holistic development of all members of our community, to extend the total person philosophy, which was a movement that started right here at Georgia Tech in our athletics department, and was a movement that was embraced by all schools around the country. We want to expand that total person philosophy, which was, by the way, also a big aspect of the report on creating the next in education. We need to expand that to all of our students, to focus on how are we going to support the well-being, the holistic well-being of our students and everybody else in our community. The new care center that we launched a year ago has been a good example. Just by organizing ourselves better, we've been able to help 1,700 students already this year. And there will be more initiatives, in some of them, that I hope to be able to announce soon. Finally, our strategic plan commits us to lead by example. And that means in the way we conduct our business, in the way we build our campus, the way we create our working culture, the way we manage our data and our information systems, the way we run all of our administrative processes. We want to be an example. And the best way that I have to picture what that means in the future is take the Candida building. The Candida building is an example of sustainable and inclusive design, but more important than that, hundreds and hundreds of students every year will go through that building, will look around, will see what's possible. And when they move on to their businesses and when they are executives or CEOs and they're responsible for making decisions, they will see what is possible. Let's make sure everything that we do has that effect in our students. Speaking of leading by example, I want to take this opportunity to recognize Provost Brass. You've made a heck of a difference in this place, Rafael. In January, Provost Brass announced his plans to wrap up his tenure as provost and to return to his teaching and research. When he does that at the end of this month, he will do so with the satisfaction of having led us through a decade of remarkable growth and transformation. Under Rafael's leadership, Tech increased enrollment by 74%, where now we have more graduate students than undergraduate students. We created new degree programs, expanded curricular and extracurricular programs. We launched Georgia Tech Arts, transformed the campus, increased international collaboration, started the new campus in Shenzhen, and devised new and accessible pathways to graduate education and alternative educational options for learners around the world. Just take this data. Since 2011, when we were in the middle of MOOC fever, which in many other institutions, it came and went at the same speed, Georgia Tech managed to reach more than 4 million learners through those MOOCs around the world. And of course, the online Masters in Computer Science program that was pioneered in 2013 is now the biggest of its kind in the galaxy. And now we have cybersecurity and data analytics and coming behind and others behind. The Visionary Commission on Creating the Next in Education, which I mentioned earlier, provided a roadmap for the future that made waves around the nation. I was at a different institution at the time, and I had that report in my hands. And I know what impact that report had in the thinking of many educators around the world. So Rafael, gracias, millón de gracias. We are indebted to you, to your service. And I can tell you that this new generation of leaders, the new Provost, Steve McLaughlin, the new deans, that we have a very new group of deans, a very new administration. We accept the responsibility of taking the baton from the prior cohort of leaders. And we promise to keep this trajectory going. Trajectory of growth, of innovation and impact, and very importantly, we promise not to screw it up. So really thank you for everything. Let me close, yes. And I'll just close where I started, which is by thanking all of you for your commitment to Georgia Tech, for the learning of our students, for the work, the scientific, the research work of our faculty. The challenges that we have faced have been significant, and we can be proud of how we have responded. And I am convinced that this experience ultimately will make us better. I can already tell how it has made us even more committed to our mission of progress and service, more convinced of this idea that technology, the science that supports it, the scholarship that guides it, the leadership that deploys it, can help us improve the human condition. I think we're becoming even more open to envisioning new ways to deliver on that mission. It is in places like Georgia Tech, with extraordinary talent and a strong mission of public service, that we will find our best path forward as a society. That's what we have done this year together. Thank you.
Thank you, President Cabrera. We are going to move into the question and answer session. Again, if you're online and you have questions or in the room, you can email townhall@godtech.edu. We have some pre-submitted questions I'll start with. One that's been coming through very recently, mostly from students and parents, is will you require professors who are choosing to remain off campus and teach remotely to receive the COVID vaccine when it is available and require them to teach in person, even if they opt out of the vaccination?
So on the vaccine, of course, we will be working with public health organizations in the state, and we're already, by the way, Georgia is already getting organized between federal agencies and state agencies and our universities. We're getting organized so that as soon as a vaccine is available, to be in a position to distribute it as efficiently as we can. On teaching, I think, listen, This has been really a very, very difficult transformation of our activities, and I really appreciate the faculty who transformed their courses, the students who are adjusting to these very different ways. But there are no good answers, and we have paid a price. And I am receiving lots of emails from students and from parents who say, hey, we're just not really having many opportunities for rich face-to-face interaction. And there's a sense of also isolation because, to fight the infection, we have to try to avoid big gatherings. Classes are either very poorly attended. Many classes, even the hybrid classes, tend to rely far more on online than face-to-face. So yeah, our next challenge is going to be how to start going to a rich campus environment without putting anybody at risk. I mean, that's our next new challenge. I mean, I think the data that we're collecting, and that's why this testing system has been essential, because we're learning a lot. We're learning a lot about where contagion happens and who's more at risk. And we need to use that information to start coming back and doing what we can to develop, to have a richer experience for our students. Even this semester, there's a lot we can do within the current classroom assignments and the current hybrid structures. Really, I thank our faculty for looking at ways in which they can create more interactions. But as we plan for next semester, we're really working, and the provost and the deans, they're working on how we can really start increasing the number of face-to-face classes. And also, based on what we've learned, how to make hybrid classes a much richer experience for the students. So it's definitely something we need to figure out.
Thank you. A question from online related to what we've learned, as you just said. With many campus changes in place due to COVID, do you see any changes that you wish to remain in the future as the threat of COVID decreases?
I really believe that there are lots of things that are going to change for the better after COVID. And by the way, I'm counting the days until we have a vaccine and we can all return to some of the things we loved to do before COVID. But in some ways, I think we're going to be in a better position. The way I look at it is, before March of 2020, nationwide, less than half of faculty members had ever taught online or using any kind of distance approach, less than half. Right now, virtually every faculty member has. Before March, many of us had lots of stereotypes, whether we admit it or not, about working at home and teleworking, and we thought that that's not really working if you don't show up in the office. Now we all know better. And we know that actually working at home, sometimes we work many more hours. And if anything, we're struggling with how to separate work from not work and putting limits to it. I think the way we work is going to be different. We have seen better, we have seen different. And the way we can mix now office work with telework, the way we can combine technology with classroom-based learning. One of the things we have learned is that lecturing in a classroom like this, lecturing in a lecture hall is probably the least valuable thing one can do in a lecture hall, because you can do that very nicely online. And yet, there are other forms of interaction that cannot be done that way. So I honestly think that after COVID, we're going to be thinking about the integration of technology and traditional forms of education in entirely different ways. And lastly, I think the other piece that we're going to see, that I see a positive change, is that it's making us more aware of the ultimate responsibility of our research to provide answers that matter. Now, that is not a comment against basic research, which is, of course, a key part of what universities deliver to our society, to answer some fundamental questions about science. But it does remind us that ultimately, all the efforts, all the work, all the training, all the funds that we raise to feed the research enterprise, are they helping us improve the human condition? And this year we saw it. We saw again, labs, I mean, some of the colleagues in this room, I was incredibly inspired of how they immediately, they switched the problems that we're working on to addressing those questions. And I saw the faculty, by the way, and their graduate students incredibly energized and inspired. And I think that's going to leave a mark in the way we think about our work going forward.
Thank you. Could you please comment on, excuse me, the strategy, you talked about the strategy and the strategic plan. When do you think it will be finalized and launched in full? And I'll get some water.
She's really moved by the new strategic plan.
It's been great work.
So, believe it or not, the most important pieces of that strategic plan, the hardest pieces, we already got them. I mean, that mission statement is really, really something. I mean, and those of you who were part of those discussions that we had, where we spent hours discussing a preposition or an article, and capturing the essence in that mission statement, that is hugely important. Articulating our values, hugely important. And laying out the 6 areas of strategic focus for the next decade, hugely important. What remains, and we are almost there, but not there yet, we'll finish this process over the next month or two. Okay, that's fine. Is translate those 6 themes into more concrete goals. There's always an art in crafting a strategic plan. I think strategic plans that try to be too prescriptive or detailed may not be that useful, because it is impossible to foresee now how our environment is going to be changing in the next even the next couple of years. Think about it, last September, we had no idea we were going to be facing this absolutely incredible situation. But if they're too vague, they're not very useful either. So part of what we're trying to do right now, and that is how do we get it just right in terms of having a plan that is inspiring, but that then it empowers each of us, each dean, each department, to say, okay, what does that mean for us? And how can we translate it into specific actions for us? I'm hoping our plan is to make sure that final product is rolled out this quarter.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me a chance to get my water as well. In addition to that, let's turn to the budget. So what is the current status of the Georgia Tech budget? And will there be any further implications to job loss, furloughs in the near future?
So we're going to see a real impact of COVID on our budget. And that's the other piece, that is the other aspect of this pandemic that is already hitting higher education throughout the nation. No one is exempt from it, by the way. I spent my days in conference calls with presidents of other universities. The universities that are still shut down and are operating online, many of them have seen dramatic decreases of enrollment, and dealing with pretty huge cuts in their revenues for this year. Not just related to room and board, but also actual students and tuition. For us, the hits come from different directions. One of them, of course, is, as you know, in June, the General Assembly reconvened to redo the budget for next year, and there it included a 10% budget cut for all state agencies. When that went through the formulas that the system uses, that translated into an 8.7% cut for Georgia Tech. The reason why our cut was a little bit less than the 10% is that we are growing very fast, and the formulas help somewhat deal with that growth. We are right now one of the top 5 fastest growing universities in the country. So that's about $29+ million hit just in terms of the appropriation. We had planned for more than that because, of course, we are in some areas like executive and professional education. We're getting hit also, so our revenues are getting hit. In room and board, because of the decline in occupancy, which, by the way, we have promoted because we wanted to de-densify our dorms to avoid risk, but that, of course, has a big impact in all of sort of our auxiliary enterprises. Plus, the other hit is all the additional expenses that we have incurred to adjust to this. The new forms of work, the testing systems, all the investments we've had to make. So yeah, we're going to have to cut. We are cutting this year more than $30 million in our budget. And it's going to be hard. I really appreciate everybody, again, all those people that I introduced earlier, all of you who are in positions of leadership. These are tough moments to lead. It's a lot easier, a lot more pleasant to lead at times of growth. This is also a big part of what we need to do this year, and we need to do it smart. We need to be very smart. We need to try to figure out how to cut costs in a way that improves that improves the efficiency of our processes. In areas where we may need to cut employment, do that compassionately and also being very smart. Favoring, for example, voluntary separations like we have done. Sometimes not filling positions that are vacant and using reductions in actual positions as the last resort. And we're likely going to be there as well. But by using everything else, we're going to try to minimize the number of positions that we will lose, but there will be some positions lost. I mean, there's no way around that. So it's less bad than we initially thought. So our initial projections, we sort of built scenarios. Again, this was the welcome to Georgia Tech, Kelly Fox. Please model bad, terrible, catastrophic. The good news is we're in bad, if that makes sense. So so out of the range of bad scenarios that we in the spring we were sort of imagining, we're probably in the least bad of those scenarios, but still going to be hard to navigate. We are, however, as an institution, we are in a good financial position. I'll tell you, I fear for some precious institutions of higher education across the country that honestly, I don't know how they're going to make it. For us, it's going to be hard, but we're in a strong position. We're going to be fine.
Thank you. One last question from online before we close. This comes from Aaron Shackelford, and he is asking where we see the arts in the mission for Georgia Tech.
So that's a great question. So I'll tell you, during the strategic plan, the arts kept coming back in at least two ways, which both of them I love. One is the arts as an object of study itself. I mean, if we are committed to improving the human condition, one of the very direct ways to improve the human condition is through the arts. And we have seen what we can do, for example, in music technology. And when you look at how film and interactive art and games and how new forms of arts and entertainment are becoming more and more technology dependent, I see a huge opportunity for Georgia Tech to claim space there. We're unlikely to open a traditional music school or a traditional school of film, but I really hope we become one of those hubs of how technology empowers artistic expression. So I'm very excited about that. But the other piece is what the arts can do for the rest of us, for the engineers and the business majors and the science majors. And as much as we are emphasizing entrepreneurship in our strategic plan, the reality is that in the tradition of business education and engineering education, we are not great at teaching creativity. We can give you all the tools in the world to analyze circuits or to study the structure of a system. We can do all that fine. The creativity, the act of thinking of something new, we're not great at. I feel like as the arts grow within Georgia Tech, they can provide that sort of space for creative thinking that everybody else will benefit from. So I'm really excited about that aspect, and I'm delighted that it came out quite strongly during this strategic planning process.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the address and for a heck of a first year. I have to just say myself, it's been quite a year for you. I want to thank everyone for joining us today online and in the room. This will be recorded, as I said, and posted later next week. In the meantime, for those of you in the room as we depart, we will help each of you go row by row so that we can continue to stay distanced on our way out. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you very much.